Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and today I'm continuing my look at the Warlord Games Epic Punic Wars stuff, and today we have the Carthaginian commanders and the Republican Roman commanders to have a look at. Now, I picked these up a few weeks ago when I was at the Warlord Games Open Day. The boxes are £20 each, and these allow you to field some of the more historically important commanders from the time, but also they would do as an alternative to the command models you get on the standard sprue. So that being said, there is absolutely no reason that you need these models. You can use the commanders on the sprue to represent Hannibal and Scipio and everyone else. However, there are some nice alternatives in here. So what we're going to do today, we're going to have a look at all of the alternative sculpts, and then I'm going to show you how I painted them up. Okay, so to get things started, the first thing to say is these are made in the Warlord resin, but as you can see here, this is Mago Barker, Hannibal's brother, and the details have come out really well, especially on the armour. I'm actually pretty impressed with these. You get some other models with these, like this standard bearer here, this mounted standard bearer, just to add, you know, a bit of flavour onto the bases. There's nothing that says you have to put these together how they're put on the box, but I'm going to do that just so you can see how they turn out. Now, this is advertised as Hanno, that's the son of Bonalcar, and this is a pretty nice sculpt, while this one is Hasdrubal Gisco. Now, I really like this one. I quite like the sort of heroic pose that he's in, and I think that's going to look really nice on the battlefield. Now, this one here is Hasdrubal Barker. That's another one of Hannibal's brothers, and that means obviously that I've saved the big guy until last, and here he is. Here is Hannibal Barker himself. There's a lot of detail on here. They've got the animal skin over him and not a lot of armor showing underneath, so I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this and do sort of lots of animal pelts. You get a number of other supporting models on foot, like standard bearers and servants, which is a lot of fun. Now, over to the Romans, you get this, which is the Praeco and his attendants. This is a guy from Rome. I'm probably not going to paint him up with these guys. I want to focus on the commanders themselves. This one here is Tiberius Sempronius Longus, so he's got a nice shield. Now, I think it can be probably particularly hard to make the Romans look different. Now, this is Scipio the Elder, who he's leaning back with a wineskin, and he comes with, well, there's an attendant, a servant with wine glasses and that, and I think he's meant to go with her. Now, this one here is down as Claudius Nero. He's sort of pointing the way, and as you can see, the detail on all the armor is really nice. This one is down as Varro, and I'm really looking forward to painting the Romans. Actually, I'm looking forward to painting the Romans a little bit more than I am the Carthaginians. This is the man himself. This is Scipio Africanus, who's in that very commanding pose. He's holding his helmet, which I always think is it's a sort of a cool pose to be in. However, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do yet with the bases. So what I'm going to do is go away and paint these and come back to you in a few days. Right then, so it's been 3 days now since I started these, and I finished all of the command bases. Now, I took the decision quite early on that the main commanders, so Hannibal himself and Scipio Africanus, I was going to put on the slightly larger bases that are on the epic sprues. In fact, I don't think they actually have a use in the Punic Wars epic game. I think they're used in some of the other epic games. The other commanders I've put on the standard size commander bases, and I've basically used the basing scheme which I've used throughout of my project, and I've also kept to the models which are shown on the commander's box, with the exception of the large command bases, which you will see here. Now, the first model I want to have a look at is the man himself. Here he is. Here is my take on Hannibal Barker. As you can see, I've used quite a sort of a dull palette on him, which I think goes really well with those animal skins, and I'm really pleased with the detail I managed to pick out on the face. He comes with his shield bearer, and I've got these two models here that the awesome Mike Peters painted up and gave to me, and I thought that they would work well on the base. Makes him really stand out on the battlefield. So really pleased with how he's come out, and I definitely want to get him on the table in some games. I mean, he might just be used as a Carthaginian general, but it being on the slightly larger base will just, you know, denote him as the man in charge. So yes, very pleased with that. Decided to do a white horse just to, again, make him stand out a little bit. This is Hasdrubal Barca, who fought in lots and lots of battles against Rome and would eventually give his life fighting the Romans. He has a little standard bearer on him here, so yeah, he was quite fun to do. Something I've tried to do with the Carthaginians is add a splash more colour here and there to make them stand out. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like painting the Carthaginians, so you'll see that across these bases. Next up here, this is Hanno, the son of Bomilcar, and I really like this model. Now, I don't think the Hanno in history was particularly old, but I thought that this model suited sort of a grey beard or a white beard. I just thought it kind of worked well, and there was lots of nice details on that standard bearer to pick out. I think this is probably one of my favourites of the Carthaginian bases that I have done. Now, this is Mago Barca. Now, this one I struggled with a bit. Now, Mago seems to be a bit... They've modelled him as if he's a lot heavier set than his brothers. But I do quite like that. I think that does sort of pick him out a little bit. I have kept most of the cloaks purple for the Carthaginians. And his attendant here with the big fan it's just a bit of fun, really, on the base. Now, this is my favourite of the Carthaginian bases. This is Hasdrubal Gisco. I really like that pose. I prefer it, well, if the horse was rearing, I don't think it'd have the same effect, but the armour is really well sculpted, and I was able to pick out a little bit more detail on that. And he's got this other Carthaginian with him reading some orders. Now, over to the Romans, you can see I've done exactly the same thing here. I put the sort of more, well, not minor commanders, but the Scipio Africanus I felt deserved his own base much the same way as Hannibal did. What's interesting here is that the Romans, a couple of the Roman commanders come on their own. Now, obviously, there's absolutely nothing to stop you popping other Roman models from the rest of the sprues on these. In fact, you will see on that middle base on the Scipio Africanus base, I used one of the standard Roman commanders because you get a lot of spares if you have a lot of these sprues. I thought I'd put him on the base as a tribune or some kind of high-ranking noble. So this is Claudius Nero. I thought a black horse would look cool, and this is probably what I would say is the most basic of the Roman commanders. I've tried to just pick out details and flashes of colour here and there where I can. Now, on the box art, most of the Romans, in fact I think all of the Romans, have purple cloaks, but as I'd already done the Carthaginians with purple, and I'm not too bothered about complete historical accuracy for the Romans, I thought a sort of stereotypical red cloak would be absolutely fine. Now, this is Sempronius Longus with the shield, and I had a little go at doing a little sort of snake serpent design on here. Now remember, these models are only sort of 13, 14 or whatever 15mm tall, so I was quite pleased with how that's come out, and in fact I'm very pleased of how these have come out overall, because you're just sort of painting the approximation of a goblet, an approximation of a face. Now, this is Scipio the Elder, who's there with his servant and his wineskin. This is probably my favourite one of the Roman commanders. I just really like that pose. The armour looks really nice, and the servant looks really cool as well. And as he's about to have a chug from a wineskin, I think that's, you know, that's always a bit of fun. This is Varro with the standard bearer on foot. Now, I had a few problems painting this standard bearer because with the guys who are wearing the wolf pelts, even with the veletates in the standard sprues, I sometimes have a bit of a trouble sort of working out where the face is, so I have to put extra washes on there and work it out. But overall, I'm really pleased with him. And here is the main base for Scipio Africanus. I had him at the front, sort of turning on his horse so he can be sort of seen, but giving his orders. You've got the tribune or whatever off to the side, and then that mounted standard bearer at the back. And I've done a little sort of freehand laurel wreath design on the standard, which is fairly simple to do, but I thought just looked quite cool. So I'm pretty pleased with how they've all come out. Now, what I thought I'd do is just very quickly just have a little look at what the specific commanders of legend, as they're called, what their rules are. So for Scipio Africanus here, he has a leadership rating of 10. It'll run you 75 points. Every unit in his division gets to increase its stamina by 1. And he has this ability called Tactical Diversity. So from the 5th turn of a battle onwards, units in his army that are taking part in a combat engagement as supports to the flank of the fighting unit add 1 to the number of supporting attacks. So most of the time with the Romans, that's going to be 2 attacks. So they're going to be throwing in 3 attacks each. Plus, if they're from his division, their stamina is going to have gone up. So he's pretty good. You're not going to be using him a lot. Scipio the Elder here, he has a leadership rating of 8 and only runs you 15 points, and his special rule is strategic competence, and after both sides have set up, Scipio may redeploy up to 3 units in his army into a position they might not have before been deployed, as long as it's a legal deployment. Claudius Nero has a leadership rating of 9, costs you 40 points, and has a quick march ability. So when giving orders involving advancing towards the enemy, units in his division may make 1 more move than they would normally, up to a maximum of 3. So he's all about getting people moving. The special rules they have is sort of play on the things that have sort of historically happened. Sempronius Longus here has a leadership of 9, he's 50 points, and he's consumed with ambition, and basically everyone in his division counts as eager, and eager means that you get a free move on a charge order. So if you've got someone who's two moves away and you get within 2 moves, then that 3rd move is basically guaranteed. Finally, Varro here has a leadership of 8 and costs you 40 points, and his special rule, the Plebeian Consul, he can essentially be accompanied by some free units for Hastati and Principe. So some nice little historical flavour, but if we skip on a couple of pages to look at the Carthaginian commanders, let's have a look at Hannibal, who, as you would expect, has a leadership rating of 10 and is worth 80 points, and he is a master of ambush. So at the start of any turn after the 2nd, this division may enter the battlefield. Place each unit adjacent to a terrain feature that has been previously noted. Units in the division may not move more than a single move, so move in that turn. He also has a martial esteem, so a little bit like Scipio. Gallic and Spanish units in Hannibal's army increase their stamina value by 1, so he is pretty brutal and will pop up when you least expect it. Now, down here for Hasdrubal Barca, he has a leadership rating of 9, 30 points, and he's a warrior to the end because he did go down fighting, so he adds 4 attacks to combat. Most of these guys only add 2. Mago, it has a leadership of 9 and is 35 points, and he's a pachyderm master. So elephants in his army get the drilled special rule, which means they will always move once, even if they fail an order. Down here, Hasdrubal Gisco has got a leadership of 9, 45 points, and when deploying his army, he may add 1 additional unit of citizen levy to his own division, so he gets some free units. And finally, Hanno, he has a leadership rating of 8, 15 points, and he's a master of cavalry, so his leadership counts as 9 when he's commanding cavalry. Now, all of these special rules, you can obviously adapt these as much as you want and do little things with them. So anyway, there we are. Well, what is there left to say now? These models are £20 for a pack, so that works out about £4 for a commander, which, fair enough, some people will argue is quite a lot. However, if you would like some different looking commanders in your army, then you're only going to be buying this pack once, and you're not going to need many more commanders than this. Now, hopefully some of these commanders will be making an outing in our next battle report. We might get some of the sort of commanders of legend on the table. Let me know what you think. Which commanders would you like to see in the next battle? And I will be back with you very, very soon with another video. There'll be some photos up at the end as always, but in the meantime, I hope you're all keeping well, and I will see you all again really, really soon in another video. Take care. Bye-bye.